Call of Duty isn't a perfect game. I know. Some of us think it is. No, I'm kidding. Every single game has had its fair share of bugs and design mistakes. Obviously, some more than others. Well, today we're going to look through COD history. Welcome back to the Every COD series. We are going to look at the most disastrous oversights from COD history. From the original Modern Warfare all the way to COD Vanguard. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Jimmy or Chaos. Now, some of these were done on purpose and some were complete mistakes. So you let me know which of these you fell victim to. Drop a like and we start off with COD 4 and Martyrdom. It's kind of a tough one here because there was a handful of things about COD 4 that really bugged me as much as I love the game as a whole. If I had to pick one, I think it would have to be Martyrdom. It was a yellow perk that would drop a live grenade on your body whenever you died, and this made the grenade spam so bad. COD 4 frag grenades were already insanely lethal, and when you could drop one on your body every single time you died, it made those smaller maps absolute chaos, no pun intended. Now, I loved COD 4, but there was a handful of things that made it a little worse than it could have been, and Martyrdom was one of those. One thing that is not going to make anything worse is having your G Fuel stocked up. Guys, if you get anything from G Fuel, the new Morbius flare, the new Uncharted flavor, use code CHAOS. Link is at the top of the description, and if you do, go over to Twitter. That link is up there as well, and let me know you did so I can show you some love as well. Now we arrive at World at War. The MP40. Never before in Call of Duty has a single weapon destroyed the balance of the entire game like the MP40 did. This SMG had a pretty low fire rate, but it dealt up to 59 damage with no stopping power, which made it hands down the best gun in the game. Plus, you could throw on a 64-round drum mag and never worry about getting caught in a reload, or you could just throw on double tap to make it shoot super fast while it killed in 2 bullets. I mean, it was unanimously considered overpowered, but since this game came out in 2008, before patching consoles was mainstream, it never got fixed, ever. You could still experience it to this day if you could go find a lobby that's not completely hacked. Maybe you could just go on COD Plutonium. Modern Warfare 2. We're going to cheat. One-man army and danger close. Here it is. The combination of kings. One-man army was a blue perk. It allowed you to change your class without dying, while danger close would dramatically increase your explosive damage. So you mix those two things together in a Harry Potter potion, and you've got a recipe for unlimited noob tubes. People would use these two perks together to sit in the corner of the edge of a map, fire noob tubes 100 yards away, refill them, and do it until they got their free nuke. One-man army and danger close became such a massive problem that IW even had a fix ready, but due to the legal issues between them and Activision, it never went live. The COD community still debates over whether this should have been fixed in the multiplayer remaster, assuming it's still coming, and I definitely think it should be if it does come out. This ruined Modern Warfare 2 back in the day, and we don't need another year of that. Black Ops 1. It's hard to find fault with Black Ops 1, so I'm going to go with the gun balance. Yeah, we'll get a little broader. I love the original Black Ops, but I'll be the first to admit the gun balance was not the best. There were close to 40 guns available in multiplayer, but you really only saw 5 of them online. Those being the FAMAS, the AUG, the AK-74U, the Galil, and sometimes a Commando or an AK-47. You rarely saw LMGs, you rarely saw snipers, and most of the SMG category was straight up unviable. I adore Black Ops 1, and I know I'm not alone in that, but the gun balance was some of the worst in COD history now that I look back at it, and it kind of makes me sad. Modern Warfare 3. The support streaks. I've talked my fair share of smack about the support streaks in Modern Warfare 3, and while I still think they're a good idea on paper, they were not implemented right. They weren't. Modern Warfare 3 was the first time players had an option of kill streaks that did not reset upon death, but in return, the streaks you earned were weaker and non-lethal, supposedly. Most of them. At the top of the support streak package, though, was the no-kill multi-skill, the Stealth Bomber, and then the EMP, and the Juggernaut Recon, and the Escort Airdrop. Now, most of the support streaks were harmless, like UAVs, ballistic vests, SAM turrets, and other things that were a good addition to the game. But why were there such powerful streaks put in the support category? Why was it possible for a good player to get the Stealth Bomber and EMP multiple times a match without even going on a streak? Again, I think support streaks were a good idea because they helped the less skilled noobs contribute more to the match. But Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer were too generous with some of the options. Black Ops 2. The security. Black Ops 2 had an amazing multiplayer experience. A lot of COD players still think it's the best ever released, but it's pretty much unplayable now unless you're playing on Plutonium on the PC. Consoles? No. I mean, Black Ops 2 is completely hacked up, and that's really the only problem I can think of. The console security in Black Ops 2 was noticeably worse than the rest of the series, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because the game was just more played than others, or maybe there was really something about the security that was worse than normal on the console, but it was by far the most hacked up COD game to date, and that largely contributed to it dying on the Xbox and PlayStation. I mean, Black Ops 2 is still completely playable on the Xbox consoles through backwards compatibility, but is anyone really doing it? If you want to play Black Ops 2 in 2022, you go to COD Plutonium on the PC. It's clean, it's super populated, but if you want to play this game on console, have fun. COD Ghosts. The map design. The core gameplay of Ghost is good. I think most of us will agree. But what made the game so hated was the map design and the colors, which was so big and complicated that it destroyed the flow of almost every single match you got into. The gunplay was good, the movement was good, the sound design was pretty good, the weapon selection was good, but the maps killed COD Ghost, and I still believe they were designed for 10v10 by default. If Ghost had launched with a good lineup of 6v6 maps, I honestly think the community would have thought different. There's no way that COD Ghosts would be viewed as one of the worst games in the series today if the maps had been better, and I think that's a huge reason why the community looks back at Ghost DLC so fondly. The DLC maps in the game, they fixed a lot of the problems that most people had, but since they cost extra cash, a lot of people skipped on them and they never experienced them, which is a shame. Ghost had some really good core mechanics, but the maps, come on, they sucked all the fun right out of it. Advanced Warfare. Supply drops. This is where it all started, and sadly, it's where things really took a nosedive. Advanced Warfare didn't exactly age well, but it was a fresh, exciting experience back in the day when it came out, and people who weren't even COD fans were joining in on the fun because it was different. The supply drop system. Well, it screwed with the game balance. There were so many weapon variants locked behind these slot machines, and so many of them were blatantly overpowered in an attempt to get you paying the big bucks for them. Supply drops would have a long effect on the multiplayer genre as a whole, and Advanced Warfare's overall gameplay suffered. If all the variants were available for direct purchase with some kind of earnable in-game currency, it probably could have been a completely different story, but it wasn't. Black Ops 3. One gun. The Brecci. Single biggest problem with the game. Single most hated gun in COD history. Semi-auto shotty. Way too easy to use. Way too powerful. And it had one counter. Itself. The shotgun completely dominated the multiplayer experience in BO3, and if you saw somebody using it, you would immediately just switch to your own Brecci class, because that's the way the game was played. Black Ops 3 was a fantastic game. I still think it's one of the best COD multiplayers ever released, but the second the Brecci came into play, it's no fun. It astonishes me. This gun was never nerfed, not a single time, despite the community outrage, and unfortunately kicked off an annoying trend of spam shotguns in Call of Duty. Infinite Warfare. The Proteus, the infamous aimbot sniper rifle. It was a shotgun sniper hybrid that was released as DLC a few months into the game cycle, and it caused a little bit of a stir. Infinity Ward had to remove the gun from the game mere hours after it was added because there was a huge design flaw. When you used the gun in shotgun mode, it was programmed to always land at least one pellet on an enemy player as long as you were facing him. Well, you know what that means? That meant you could go into hardcore modes, jump around, spam the right trigger, cross-map people with absolutely no skill or strategy. The gun literally had an aimbot built into it, and somehow, nobody caught it. Infinity Ward patched it pretty quickly, but it's still one of the most remembered aspects of the entire game. COD World War II. Divisions. This game tried to scale things back to basics, but they ended up going too far. COD World War II was the first game since COD 3 to not have perks in multiplayer. Instead, we had divisions. You would pick between one of the divisions and basically get a bunch of built-in perks that really wasn't received well by the community. After all, the game was taking away customization, forced you to use one of 5 divisions instead of letting you mix and match your 3 perks to make your character feel unique. I mean, the multiplayer overhaul fixed a lot of those in COD World War II, but the divisions remain to this day, and I still think they're the biggest mistake Sledgehammer made. COD World War II has really good movement, shooting, it's all good, so if the customization had been there, whew, could have been different. Black Ops 4. The bare bones playlist. Now, before you dislike the video, let me explain. Black Ops 4 was praised for its gameplay, heavily criticized, though, for the specialists being spammy and cheap. A lot of people begged Treyarch to add a no specialist playlist so it would feel more like classic Call of Duty, and when they did it, they called it bare bones. So why do I think it was a mistake? Well, because it took Treyarch almost a full year to add it. Why? I don't know. Do you have any idea how many people would have played Black Ops 4 if the bare bones was an option from day one? To this day, a lot of Black Ops 4 players insist that bare bones was the best way to experience multiplayer, so why was it not there earlier? There's so many people who put the game down long before the option was ever there. Modern Warfare 2019. The minimap. I mean, the game sounded and looked phenomenal. It was by far the most immersive COD game ever released, but if we're talking about it from a gameplay standpoint, most people point to the minimap as the biggest problem. Unlike other COD games, this minimap didn't show enemies as red dots when they were firing a weapon. Instead, You have to have a UAV or a personal radar in the air for that effect to happen, meaning most of the time enemies were able to fire off with impunity and you won't have a quick idea of where they are. I know a lot of people say adapt, get good, Jimmy, but the problem with the minimap working this way is the fact you didn't have a quick idea of where enemies were and there was no immediate consequence for firing your gun. So, Modern Warfare 2019 played a lot slower. Nobody wanted to move around because they didn't know if enemies were going to sneak up on them, and they didn't want to play stealthy because what was the point? It was a very campy game. Black Ops Cold War. Ranked mode. Fans were excited for ranked mode to make a comeback in Cold War, and I bet all of you already know why it's on the list. Cold War had a lot of problems throughout its life cycle, but I think the biggest design flaw in the entirety was ranked mode. The layout was bizarre, the ranking system made no sense, there were people who dominated their placement matches getting placed lower skill with others. I mean, there was ones who had a 50% win rate. There were even reports of people losing placement points even though they won the match. Cold War's ranking system was a mess. I still don't understand why every new COD game can't just copy and paste the rank system from Black Ops 2. It was perfect. And finally, Vanguard. Packet burst. It's had its fair share of problems, but the single biggest one has been causing it to me is packet burst. While it's obviously not intentional, I'm still calling it the biggest design flaw of the entire game because there's no way Sledgehammer didn't see it during development, and there's really no excuse for it still being a problem 4 months after release. Packet burst is basically when the connection between your game and the server goes dark for a second or two, and then the game tries to rapidly make the connection back up all at once, resulting in massive stutters and hefty lag for a few seconds. The packet burst in Vanguard is so frequent and so predictable, some people have straight up quit the game until it's fixed, which it's that bad. So while you may have some other ideas as to what the worst thing is in Vanguard, I honestly think packet burst takes the cake. No other issue in the game has such a universal effect on every match. And there you have it. To me, that's the biggest mistake in every single Call of Duty. Let me know if you agree or disagree, and I'll see you soon.